بسم الله الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي اللهم ثبتنا عند الموت بلا إله إلا الله اللهم اجعلنا من الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر آمين يا رب العالمين. أما بعد, السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Inshallah, this month we've been talking about different stories that the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam tells us within different ahadith. And today we're going to be covering a very famous story covering the three men of Bani Israeel. And inshallah, usually I'm very notorious for my reminders going, up to 40 minutes, even longer than that. Inshallah, the goal is if I go up past 8:05, I'm just going to stop, inshallah. Okay. So inshallah, I'm not going to go too long today, inshallah. So firstly, what I'm going to do is I'm going to mention the story and mention the hadith that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentions word for word and translate, of course, in English. Thereafter, we'll mention what are some benefits. Why did the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam tell us these stories? There's a lot of things the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentions in various ahadith. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives him this as wahi, as revelation. Because part of the wahi is the sunnah of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And part of these stories are to strengthen your iman, give you different viewpoints and give you a different perspective on life and teach you different things. Because there's nothing in your life except that the sunnah and the Quran has come with it in the past and spoken about it in the past. So we begin the hadith. The hadith here is narrated by Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu, one of the greatest, or perhaps the most greatest of the narrators out of the companions, radiallahu anhu ajma'in. So Abu Hurairah has narrated over 5,000 hadith from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, despite only living with him for a very short amount of time. So Abu Hurairah begins and narrates this hadith, and this hadith is found in Bukhari and Muslim. So it's found in both the Sahih books. And the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam begins and he says, there are three people from Bani Israeel. There are three men from Bani Israeel. One of them, he's abras. He has leprosy, which is a skin condition, which makes your skin, diseased, and it makes it look very, it makes it look very dark and very, very unpleasant to look at. Adi Abdul Latif leprosy, yes? Pale skin? Spots on the skin, okay. So leprosy is a very well-known skin condition that this person had. So he's what we call a leper. He has leprosy. Then you have aqra', the person who he's bald, correct? He has no hair. And then you have al-a'ma, the person who is blind. So these three men from Bani Israel. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as the Prophet mentioned in the hadith, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted to test them all. Test these three men. So he brought for them an angel. He sent to them an angel. The angel came to the person who was the leper with the skin condition. And the angel said to him, what is the most beloved thing to you? And he said, a beautiful color and beautiful skin. Meaning, what the angel asked him, what do you want most in this world? He said, I want beautiful color, beautiful skin. Such that people don't look at me in this way, people detest me with the skin that I have. I want that to be gone. So the angel wiped on him or rubbed on him, and his skin condition was gone, and his skin was beautiful and his color was beautiful. Then the angel said to this person, this leper who now has beautiful skin, he said, what type of wealth would you like? What is the most beloved wealth to you? He said, camels, or the narrator of the hadith here, he was unsure of what the actual wording was. So he says, either he said camels or he said cattle, so cows. The rawi, the narrator of the hadith, was unsure. So either cattle or camels. So he said one of them. And this angel gave him a pregnant she-camel, okay, ushara. It was pregnant and it was a female camel. And then he said, Barakallahu laka fiha. He said, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala barakah in you with this she-camel. Then the angel comes to the person who is bald, and he said the exact same thing. He said, what is the most beloved thing to you? He said, beautiful hair. I want beautiful hair, such that people don't look at me like I'm different, I'm weird. I want beautiful hair. And I think this is back in the time of Bani Israeel. And back, we even know, going back a few hundred years, someone who has skin conditions, they're not considered from society. You go back to medieval times, they had special places just for people who were poor. They didn't have, their skin was blackened because of where they worked, and they had conditions on their skin, conditions with their hair. These people were outcasts in society. And this is back in Bani Israeel, which is even further beyond then their medieval times. So this person is bold and he's not liked by society. So he said, I want beautiful hair, and I want this feeling that when people detest me, they hate me for what I look like. I want this to be gone. So the angel rubs him, and he has beautiful hair. And then the angel asks him, what is the most beautiful, or what is the most preferred wealth that you want? What wealth do you want? He said, al-baqar. He said, I want cows. So the angel gave him baqarah hamila, so a pregnant cow. Then he said, Barakallahu laka fiha. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put barakah in it for you. Then the angel came to the a'ma. He came to the blind person. And he said, what do you want most in this world? What is the most beloved thing to you? Listen to how he phrases this. The other two said straight away, okay, I want beautiful skin. Another one said, I want beautiful hair. He said, I want Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to return my eyesight so that I can see people. So the angel rubs on him, and he says in the wording of the hadith that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala returned his eyesight. Then he said, فَأَيُّ الْمَالُ أَحَبْ إِلَيْكَ. So he said, what is the most beautiful, what type of wealth would you like? He said, al-ghanam, sheep. So he gave him a pregnant sheep. And then the hadith goes on and mentions that all of these three people, the she-camel gave birth, the cow gave birth, the sheep gave birth, such that each of them had a whole valley. This one had a whole valley full of camels. The next one had a full valley full of cows. The third one had a full valley of sheep. Then the angel came. The angel came to the leper. Now he has beautiful skin. He has a lot of wealth now. The angel comes to the leper looking like he was when he was a leper. So with terrible skin, looking poor, looking disheveled. He came to him in that look. And he said, Rajulun miskin. He said, I'm a very poor person. Wabnu sabil, I'm stuck in this country. I can't travel because I've lost all my money. He said, all my travels, all my provisions for our travel, they're gone. He said, فَلَا بَلَاغَ لِيَ الْيَوْمِ إِلَّا بِاللَّهِ ثُمَّ بِكَ. He said, there's nothing for me today, that I don't have any provision for me today, except with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, thereafter by you, by whatever you can give me. So he says, I ask, by the one who has given you this beautiful color and this beautiful skin, give me some money. And this beautiful wealth. He said, give me one camel so that I may use it in my travels. I can use it to get around my travels. And he says, oh, al-huququ kathira. So this person who was a leper now, he's beautiful skin, he has so much money. He says, al-huququ kathira. I have so many things. I have so much taxes and things that I have to worry about. So many things that I have to worry about. And then the angel says, so he rejects him. He says, sorry, I don't have money for you. He says, all this money, I need it. I need it for my things. The angel says, he says to him, Ka'ni a'rifuk. It's like, it's as if I know you. He says, weren't you that person who a while ago, you were like I am? You were a leper, you had leprosy on your skin, and you were poor. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave you. He said, He said, wasn't it Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who had given you all these things? The person said, no, this is what I had inherited from generation to generation. So we lied to him. And he said, if you're lying, then may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala change you back to what you were before. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala remove your ni'mah from you. Then the bold person comes and the exact same story plays out. So the angel comes to him, and then he comes to him in the form of what he was before, with a bald head and not pleasing to the people. He said the same thing. He said, I'm, poor person, I can't travel, give me one of your things. And he said the exact same thing. He said, I don't have anything for you. And he said, it's as if I knew you. Weren't you that person who was bold? And he said, no, this is all the money that I had got generation to generation. He said, if you're lying, then may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala return you to what you were before. Then he came to the blind person, And he came to him as a blind person, in the state that he was before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala returned his gaze. And he said the same thing, that he was a poor person, that he couldn't travel. And he said, can you give me something from your sheep? Give me one of your sheep. And he said, I was once blind like you. He said, once I was blind. And then he said, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala returned my gaze. He said, look at this valley, take what you want and leave what you want. He said, for wallahi, by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I'm not going to say anything for whatever you take, because I give it all for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So, he said, this is the test that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave to them, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was pleased with that one. And the angel said to him, I tested you just as I tested your two companions. He said, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is pleased with you, and He is displeased with your two friends. So that's the hadith. That's the hadith. So there's 3 men in Bani Israeel. The angel comes to all 3 of them and gives them what they want, removes whatever deficiency they had and gives them something beautiful. Thereafter, the angel comes back and tests them in the same form as they were. Some few things we can get out of this hadith. Firstly, look at that test that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent to these 3 people. Usually when we think of tests, we think less money. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to take away my money to test me. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to take away my family member to test me. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to take this away, take away my job to test me. We always think of tests as decrease. We're going to less of something. But in this hadith, it's the opposite. The people start off here, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tests them how? He wants to test these people. He gives them more. He doesn't take away things. He doesn't take away their family and this and that, and He gives them more. And then that's how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tests these people. So not every test comes in the form of you losing money. You gaining money could just similarly be a test from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, just like you losing money. So that, boom in your business that you had the other day, that promotion that you got the other day, that, new thing that happened the other day. All these things could be Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala giving you that thing as a form of a test for you. So that's one thing, is that you notice in the hadith, it's not a decrease. These people, they have nothing to be given. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tests them. How? By giving them more. By giving them more. Next, and we're very specific on the wording. When you looked at the person who was the leper and the bald, when the angel asked him, what do you want? They just said, I want beautiful skin and I want beautiful hair. But when the blind person was asked, he said, what? I want Allah to return my gaze. He didn't say, I want my gaze to be returned. I want my eyesight to be returned. He said, I want Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the one who took my gaze, I want Him to return my eyesight. So you can see, and even in the wording of the hadith, you can see when the angel rubbed on the person, it doesn't say his eyesight was returned. He said, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala returned his eyesight. Whereas in the other 2 people, he said, he was given good hair and he was given good skin. But over here it says, specifically in the hadith, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala returned it. As if to say the things that the other 2 got were temporary. They weren't a ni'mah from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because in the end, these things that they got was something detrimental to them. And that's something else we learn as well from the hadith. When you get something good, it might not always be something that's good for you in that moment. Maybe you get a lot of money, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows that you're not going to spend that money in the right way. You're just going to waste it. That money is going to waste on whatever it is. So that money that you got will now be something that will be held against you rather than for you. That thing that you did that you thought was good in the moment, but it turned out it was completely wrong. That action that you thought maybe was good was something that will turn against you. So similarly here, that thing that you might think is good, but it could be something that is being against you. Okay? So this blind person, he attributed his sight to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, whereas the other 2 did not. Okay? And he says in the hadith that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala returned it. Not he was just given it back. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala truly gives someone something, it's when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does it out of love for this person. And He wants him to improve. He doesn't want him to, fall apart and, become less because of this. And maybe Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving you less because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves you and He knows that less is better for you. We know the ayah in the Quran where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, عَسَىٰ أَن تُحِبُّوا شَيْئًا وَهُوَ شَرٌّ لَكُمْ عسى أن تكرهوا شيئا وهو خير لكم وعسى أن تحبوا شيئا وهو شر لكم. Maybe you love something or maybe you hate something, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows it's better for you. And maybe you love something, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows that it's worse for you. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives and He takes away depending on what's better for you. If you pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala every single day, you want that promotion, you want that promotion, you want that promotion. 1 month you pray, 2 months you pray, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't want me to get that promotion. Maybe Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows if you were to get that promotion, you won't give your family their rights, you won't give your children their rights, the money you get might corrupt you. You won't spend the time on your salawat. You'll find it very hard to pray Taraweeh during the nights of Ramadan. All these issues. Why? Because you got that promotion. So maybe Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is holding that away from you because He knows that it's better for you not to get that thing. And so that's one of the things of this hadith. Next is this worldly life. The things that these people were given, they're just things in the worldly life. Look, this person got all these things of camels. He had a whole valley full of camels. Imagine all the money he had, the wealth. He's a rich person now. Going from zero to now he's, mashallah, considered someone who's rich in society. Same thing, this person has all ghanam. He has all these sheep. And then when they asked, I have so many things. I can't afford, to give you one. I need all of these things. Every single thing, every single dollar of my wealth, I need it. And this is one of the tricks of the shaitan and the deceit of the worldly life, is that we always think, if I give this, but what about this? What about this? What about this? We always think, but if I give this $100, but maybe I won't be able to pay my bills on this day. Or maybe what happens if I won't be able to save up for that car now? Or I have to save an extra week's pay now just to get this thing because I spent $500 on charity. That's one of the deceits of the worldly life. When we give money, we feel like we're losing. Or when we give something, we feel like we're losing something. Whereas in this hadith, the two people who didn't give, in fact, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the angel made the dua, made Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala return to you to where you were before. And the third one, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was pleased with him. And what was that pleasure for? For giving everything. He said, whatever I have, it's yours. Whatever I have, it's yours. And that's another point I have is the wealth is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Listen to the third person. When he was asked, can I have one of your things? He said, take what you want, leave what you want. This is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave me. And I'm giving it all back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Whenever you give money or you attain wealth, don't think that wealth is yours and it's going to stay with you forever. Money is a temporary thing. It comes and it goes. Every one of us will know. You have $50 today. Next day you're spending $50, something comes up, you have to pay it. You save up extra money, and then something, your car breaks down and you have to spend $1,000 to get it fixed. It happens. So, and wealth is temporary. So money will come, money will go. And this person knew that. The blind person knew that. So when the person came and he asked, I need some wealth, he said, take whatever you want. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave it to me, Allah can give it back to me again. And this should be the mindset of a Muslim. We should know that we have things in our life. We have wealth. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He has given us some more than others. But that doesn't mean that we are more because of that. This is what Allah has given us. And Allah, just as easy gave us, He can take it away. And this, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will do what He wants with the wealth. If you have $50,000, don't think Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is just going to leave you there and says, okay, keep saving, do whatever you want with it. No, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants, He can chop that in half. An accident happens, you're in hospital, you pay $25,000 bills. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants, He can take away your wealth just as easily as He gave it to you. One of the last points is when you look at the end of the hadith, what does the angel say? He says that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is pleased with you and سَخِطَ عَلَى صَاحِبَيْكَ, that He is displeased or that He is He's hateful of the two who were not grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and who do not give from their wealth. Now, the hadith doesn't say that because this person was given X, Y, Z, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala took it away from them. It doesn't say that. The angel made the dua saying, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala return you if you were lying. But He didn't say anything past that. And one of these things is that the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala or the displeasure is enough of a reward or a punishment. When you receive that pleasure from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that in itself is the greatest reward you can ever have. You give $500, $1,000 from the sincere depths of your heart. That in itself, earning the pleasure for nothing else except for earning the pleasure of Allah, that in itself is the reward. The reward is not the people are happy with me. This person, mashallah, I can see him. Now he has money. Now he's, before he was poor now. That, yes, those are secondary effects. The biggest benefit is what? That you, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is pleased with you and your actions. And when you see all in the Quran, يُرِيدُونَ وَجْهَهُ, they desire Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And it literally says the faces of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What does that mean? They desire His pleasure. The true believer doesn't desire, temporary things. They don't desire, watching this or watching that or seeing this person succeed. They want pleasure from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They don't care how. They just want Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to be pleased with them. If that requires them to give all their money, khalas, then be it. And last is, and similar to that, the displeasure of Allah is enough of a punishment. If you are a billionaire, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is displeased with you, then that is in itself a punishment from Allah. You not living your life content with Allah is itself a punishment. There's a story that one of the rabbis from Bani Israeel, he made dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and he said, Ya Allah, I commit sin so much, but you don't punish me. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to respond to this rabbi, He sends a prophet to this town to speak to this rabbi. And he says, he replies to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, replies through his prophet, and he says, how much have I been punishing you, but you just haven't noticed it? So I've been punishing you, just haven't noticed it. He said, haven't I taken away the sweetness of the worship or the sweetness of being close to me? So that in itself is the reward. The reward is not, that in itself the punishment. The punishment doesn't always have to be a lightning bolt that strikes you there and then. It doesn't always have to be in the form of a car accident on the way home. You not being close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala being displeased with you, that's enough of a punishment. That's enough of a punishment for the believer. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the one who created you, is displeased with you, that should be in enough of yourself. You should think, wow, how can I live with my Creator being displeased with me? That's not a life we want to live. The whole point of Islam is what? For Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to be pleased with us, to admit us into the Jannah because of His pleasure. Not because of all these other things, but not because of how much wealth I had, or how beautiful I was, how much knowledge I had, but because we did stuff purely for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, for His pleasure. So the displeasure in this world, that is in itself enough of a punishment. For Jazakumullah khairan, I think that was many of the points. Of course, there's much more you can talk about this hadith, many more. And the scholars go to very, very detail on, what, and they connect it to different ayat of Quran, and they talk about, why was this person, why did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mention these three, and why did He give this? So there's much more you can learn from this hadith, and a very famous hadith as well. But the general moral of this is be grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for what He has given you. These three, they were given different things, and two of them were not grateful. And just like the ayat, I was meant to mention that, the ayat that were recited in the salah about the two people who were given guidance in Surah Al-Kahf. You can see the story follows very similar to this. One of them was, he said, this is my wealth, this is my garden. And the other said, how can you disbelieve in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? I have few things, yes, but this is all what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave me. And you can see the one who had so much, he had beautiful gardens, imagine lush rivers, and he has so many, people working for him. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala got rid of all of that. And the one who had little, but he was grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala kept him that and increased him and was pleased with him. So you can see how these link up together. So the main moral of this is be grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for what He has given you. Because if you're not, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can take that away from you. Or even worse, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala could be displeased with you, because that thing that you may be sent or may be given might have been that test that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave to you. فجزاكم الله خيرا سبحانك اللهم بحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك جزاكم الله خيرا السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.